Many times on social media when I see a negative opinion towards physical games, one of the biggest arguments I see is just how much plastic waste it contributes to the environment. What plastic waste? Of course, every kind of plastics manufacturer is going to have some output of plastic waste because it's unrealistic to use 100% of the plastic. But when you start calling out the final product as wasteful, that's just plain wrong. In the words of our friendly neighborhood packaging engineer Dakota, let's take a look at what makes these products important. Game cases are crafted from polypropylene, denoted as plastic 5. While plastic 5 is theoretically recyclable up to approximately 4 times, its first time recycling rate is notably low, falling below 1%. The existing plastic recycling infrastructure primarily targets widely recognized recyclables, predominantly focusing on the high demand items like bottles. Due to the inability of individually assessing each plastic item passing through these recycling facilities, the comprehensive recycling of plastics, let alone plastic 5, remains to be a challenging task. In layman's terms, it means that if you're recycling your game cases, they're more than likely to rot away. So why are they manufactured using plastic 5 if they're deemed near impossible to sustainably recycle? If it wasn't obvious enough, it's because it's a product meant to be reused, not to be disposed of. The main strengths of plastic 5 is that it's lightweight, yet sturdy, and it can be bent and twisted while maintaining its shape. So you can open and close the case without damaging the built-in hinges. If you don't like game cases, just sell them off as replacement cases, especially if we're talking about proprietary stuff like the Nintendo Switch game boxes. Many of us, including Dakota and I, we use our collection case for cartridge games, and these cases become more of a visual size of the collection. But for the common consumer, they're more likely to use the case to store the games, or it would just end up gathering dust somewhere in the house. Kind of like the Apple packaging effect where the box is too nice to throw out. Compared to movies, TV shows, music, audiobooks, and other mediums, video games within a plastic medium are reused so much more often. The only thing that ever actually goes to waste is the small amount of shrink wrap containing these games. The first time you purchase them, you're gonna dispose of them, but after that, there's nothing else to throw out, unless you idiotically decide to dispose of the boxes too. Maybe there are some game boxes out there that are a complete waste of plastic and space. Fortnite, on consoles, have multiple physical retail versions available for purchase. But the catch is that inside of these boxes, all you're getting are digital codes. They're pretty much collector's items, so the only wasteful part is how commonly available these game boxes are, but that's besides the point. Think of the number of times you would insert the Spider-Man 2 disc into your PS5 compared to a Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse disc. I mean, like, how many times are you reusing that piece of plastic media to play the game? I can understand that part of the argument against physical media comes from the PS5 and Xbox Series X, where the discs only act as a physical license and a way of installing the game, while not saving space on your SSD, which I hope Nintendo doesn't do that as well. However, it does allow you to physically share your games or resell them legally, and it also lets you install the game at any point in time, assuming the hardware doesn't fail, even after the digital storefronts close. That's not to say physical games are an effective method of video game preservation. As we progress through the years, older hardware becomes increasingly less compatible with modern tech, and the physical mediums containing these games either wear out or deteriorate over time. However, I believe it still wouldn't be very wasteful, because you would have already used this physical media very extensively before it ever reaches that point of wearing out. People get all paranoid about how console companies could just revoke access to a game anytime they wanted to. But remember, there are probably policies in place that would require these companies to compensate the consumer in the event that the access gets revoked. Revoking access to a paid game is much more difficult than revoking access to a service or removing retail availability. I'm no legal expert, but that would be a class action lawsuit that would benefit the consumers regardless of the verdict. This is where the importance of physical media shines the most. I think most people are aware of the recent removal of the Discovery Channel content on PlayStation platforms. People who paid real money to digitally own these films and shows can no longer access them, but they also don't get a refund. Only time will tell how this whole situation will be investigated and handled. For now, I'm just going to assume that within the fine print, under the confines of hundreds of legal documents probably somewhere, might say that what you were paying for this whole time was a service, not a product. You were paying to have access to a digital license to access this digital media. If you're to buy these physically, you would own the license to access the media. You see, games that follow the so-called games as a service model could be almost taken literally at this point as a service. The content you play is designed to be limited time, the microtransactions you pay are essentially just rentals, and the overall experience is something constantly replaced by some newer content. Besides physical merchandise, you're never really meant to own anything in this game. And that's not a bad thing when some of these live service games often provide methods to unlock the paid content, but at the end of the day, all that money you're paying is for service, for rental. However, there is one exception to this: Rocket League, a game that was made free to play after its IP and developers were acquired by Epic Games. Previously coming in at a fairly low price, Rocket League did get a real physical copy with a real disc or cartridge. People who purchased Rocket League are now given an exclusive legacy status after the game went free to play. And while you could consider the entire game to be a service like Fortnite, there's technically some part of the game license that you could own because you own the physical copy. Except what you own is a license to access a service because the game was designed to be a live service game even before Epic Games bought it. So does that mean you don't own Rocket League? That is a question that would probably take a very long time to answer. But let's get back to talking about plastics. I don't think anyone is genuinely dumb enough to throw away their game disc or cartridge unless it was actually destroyed in some freak accident or a fit of rage. That tiny game card you're holding right there is worth $70, at least in terms of MSRP. Movies, TV shows, music, audiobooks, they're all worth less because the convenience of streaming and downloading is at its best now. Well, besides the increasing cost of subscriptions, but video games are much more complex and they aren't as versatile. Yes, the technology is available, and yes, it is improving with Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, not Google Stadia, Netflix, Amazon, you name it. However, these streaming games just will never reach the same point as all other media because the idea of owning video games today is still a very heated topic today. Like I said earlier, you revisit video games much more often than you would revisit any kind of medium. There's a lot more I could rant about here, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. How you purchase your games is still up to you, and frankly, digital is becoming much more enticing because that's why the aftermarket exists, and that's where the aftermarket shines the most. If it's not a collector's item, and if it's a game from the current generation or maybe the previous gen, you're gonna get it at a much more affordable price than some of the biggest discounts on even Steam and the Epic Games Store. The aftermarket for physical games is still going to be huge for as long as physical games exist. And it's the prime example of how often video games have been reused over time. For as long as everyone treats their physical games well and avoids throwing out the game boxes or physical games are here to stay. Whether you're a materialistic collector or you just want something tangible to hold in the event that digital media suddenly fails, perhaps you want to gift someone with a specific game on a platform that doesn't allow it to be gifted very easily, cough cough Nintendo. The benefits of physical media will continue to outweigh its drawbacks. Because after all, you're paying for a product, you're paying for the license. You're not paying for a service to access the license.